so everything is ready now. Okay, so I think now we have reached a level where we need to learn network programming or socket programming using Java. But in Java, you need to understand that only internet programming is going to be there. That means whatever we have learned in Linux using C language, we have two ways, right? One is by using Unix sockets or Linux sockets. The other one is by using internet sockets. Two types of sockets. But in the case of Java language, only that IP sockets or Linux sockets is possible, right? So that way, it is relatively much easier to learn because only one technology. So no complexity involved, like no generic sockets, no specific thing, and then filling the structures. All that complexity is not there. It will be very simple, in fact. And because Java language is object oriented, you will have different classes for handling different protocols. Like if you want to design connection oriented socket programming, you will have one set of classes. If you want to design connectionless socket programming, you will have a different classes. So that way, it will, the very name of the class indicate that you are using either TCP oriented or UDP oriented. Again, you don't have to pass that as extra information. That way, it will be very, very simple, in fact. So already all of you are familiar in client server programming what to do. You have to develop server program as well as a client program. In the server program, you have to bind the socket to a known port number. You have to bind the socket to a known port number so that clients can connect to this using that particular port number. That is what you have to do it. So that's all what you have to do it actually in the case of server side this thing. And after that, anyhow, the server side thing, the socket should listen or should wait for requests coming from the clients. How do you wait normally in the case of the C language? Already we have seen. You just simply invoke a accept system call. You invoke accept, right? You try to accept the request coming from client. So after creating a socket, you try to accept requests coming from clients. And then once you accept a request comes from the client, it returns another socket, which is useful for communication purposes. So you have two types of sockets, right? One socket is capable of receiving requests from clients to connect to this particular socket, right? And that is only capable of doing that. It cannot be used for communication purpose. So the socket which is accepting the requests coming from the clients is useful only for getting the request from the clients. But whatever is returned by the accept method, it returns a socket that can be used for communication purpose. Right? So that's what you have to do it. One, like in the case of Java now, you call server socket is one thing that is responsible for accepting connection requests from the clients. That is called a server socket. There is another socket which is simply socket actually. It is a socket which is useful for communication purposes. Right? Now let us proceed further down. You're already seeing here what all and all that. And you need to understand that there is a package called java.net that contain all the essential classes. To write the client server programs. Now, for example, you want to develop a client side program, right? Client. What is that client has to do? Client must connect to a server whose IP address and port number are to be provided. That's all, right? You want to connect to a server. Server's IP address and port number must be given. Other details like what we used to give, like AF address family, all that in the case of Linux or in the case of C language is not required because it is specifically for IP only, IP networking only. That's why things are very simple here. So let us now look into that, how you can actually create. You can see here, it is a very simple mechanism. There is a class called socket class, right? All of you are familiar that most of the class names, they start with a capital letter. Naming convention. Class names begin with capital letter. And Java language is case sensitive. So socket, and then this is the variable name. Socket equal to new socket of, what do you give? You give the IP address of the server. In our case, we want to test it on a local host kind of thing. So that's why you are giving 127.0.0.1, comma, port number. What is the port on which your server is running? That you have to specify. That's all what it is. It is ready now. The socket is ready. But the only thing is, how do you communicate? How do you perform read and write kind of thing? So you require a kind of a stream objects, input stream object and output stream object, so that you can read from input stream object to read the data coming from the network. Similarly, you should be able to write onto that. For that, you require another stream. And as you can see, it is very simple again. The steps are. So he is giving you the program itself straight away. I think in which case we can either go for that or whatever. All right. Let me go for full screen mode. Zoom is there, but full screen mode. Okay, it doesn't matter. I think we can continue. Writing the complete program. Let us analyze here. Essentially, because in the case of Java, you need to write a class, right? Because it is object-oriented thing. You have to develop a class. And in this case, you can understand, you can see here very easily, public class, class name. This is the actual program now. You are trying to write the complete program. So how are you going to do that? This is a client-side program. Client-side program, what it has to do? It must connect to the server and then keep like, then maybe send a request to the server, and then server gives the reply back, and that reply must be understood by the client and continue like that and so on. Anyhow, so that is what it is. And now let us try to understand. So public class, class name, all of you are aware of. In this case, class name of the client is client here. Curly brace begins. And then any variables that you require, that you can initialize, that belong to the class, right? So you can say private socket equal to null value. Because you require a socket, right, for communication purpose, you are declaring a variable. So these variables become a part of the class itself. In the sense, whenever you create an object out of that, when you create an object out of this particular class, that object will contain these variables. In fact, these are the fields. These are the attributes of the class called a client. And then for communication purpose, you require data input stream and data output stream. Right? So private data input stream, input equal to none. Private data output stream, out equal to none. These things are available in the java.io.start for performing reading and writing. And then you develop a constructor method for this. Constructor is to initialize your object. So public client of, what do you require in order to create a client object? You require an IP address and a port number. So both of them are passed as a parameter. Client of string address comma int port. So in the form of that double quote 127.0.0.1, right? Dotted decimal notation in the form of a string is being supplied to this. That's all what it is. And remember, like whenever you are developing any kind of network IO or socket kind of thing, things may not be successful. You might be giving a wrong IP address, or the server may not be running there. So anything can go wrong. So that is why these things are likely to throw the exceptions. Right? So that's why you have to actually create or write all the code inside a try block. Inside a try block. You have to use the try and catch. Because so nothing is guaranteed here. Either the server might not be running, or even if it is running, you might be giving here some wrong data or whatever, all that. So that's why you are using a try block here, try. And then curly brace begins. What is to be done? Socket equal to new socket of address comma port. Over. So once this is successful, we say system.out.println of connected. You are ready now, kind of thing. Right? And then now, like onto this socket, You must create the input out of the socket. You must also create the output out of the socket so that you can use those input output kind of thing for communication purpose. How do you do that? So this is not meant for that anyhow. This next line is not meant for that, but this line is meant for that particular. Anyhow, now because he would like to use a kind of a reading one line at a time kind of thing, so he's using input equal to new data input stream of system.in. System.in is actually standard input. You want to read the data from the standard input. So instead of using this standard input stream object, you are using the data input stream kind of thing. So that methods available in data input stream are going to be present in this input object. Right? That's all what it is. It has nothing to do with the socket. The next one, out is equal to new data output stream of socket dot. Right? We have now socket object. Socket dot get output stream actually. This is get output stream here. So socket dot get output stream will return an output object that can be used for sending the request to the server. Once this is successful, out is ready. So you can write on to out. So all those caching and all that for error situations. Now the actual code is here. String line is equal to empty string. Sorry. While not line dot equals of over. That means now you will be giving the input. As long as the user is giving the input, so that data is going to be sent to the server. It is a kind of an echo server kind of thing. Whatever you type here is going to be sent to the server, and then the server will return back. And then you try to actually read and print it kind of thing. It's only a small, not a complete program. I will show you a full-fledged one later. Just you are trying to understand what is going on in this particular form. So while not line dot equals of over, that means as long as still like the user is typing some meaningful data to be sent, what is to be done? The actual thing is this. Input dot read line is going to read from the standard input. Remember that. Input dot read line will read from the standard input because that read line method is there on the data input stream. On the data input stream. So that's why you are able to use this read line method on the input object. So it will return one line of data. Whatever line that you have read now, you want to send it to the server. So server corresponding out stream is there on out dot. So on the data output stream, there is a method called write UTF. Write UTF method is there, which can be used to send a string. Any string can be sent. So whatever line that you have read from the standard input, the same data you are sending over the network to the server. That's all what you are actually doing, and keep doing that particular thing. So in fact, he's not even doing, again, he's not even reading the data from the server. It is a very small kind of thing. It's okay. We will implement the full-fledged version. So basically, he's reading from the standard input. Whatever you are entering is being sent to the network, over the network to the server. That's all. So how do you verify? We will verify by writing the server code. And then the server will receive what you are actually sending here. And after receiving, the server will actually print it. Then you will know, oh, client is able to send it. And you are also able to receive it into the server, and that you can actually print. So that is how this particular thing is there. This is actually taken from jigs for jigs, right? You can also examine later on. So whatever it is. So it is a simple two-line code. So one line is meant for reading the standard input, the other line is meant for writing onto the socket corresponding to that. And it is continuously going on as long as the user is not giving the over. The moment you give the over, then it compares and line dot equals of over. If line contains over there, then both become equal, and not equal becomes false, so that it will get out of it. And once you get out of it, what is to be done? As a closing kind of it is simple. Close all the connections, right? Input dot close, because you have created input object. Out dot close. Socket also is there. Socket dot close. Right? All these three you are closing basically. And that's all. This is the actual constructor method for client. Now you have to develop the main method. So main method is public static void main. Then you create a client object that will take care of doing everything. So client equal to new client of. What is to be given? IP address and port number. Once you create this client object, it's going to run this constructor, and within the constructor you have the logic that is trying to connect to the server, right? And then reading from the standard input, sending that to the server continuously until the user types the word called over. It is such a small thing, right? So all the other try, catch, because of that there are so many lines. Otherwise, the logic is very simple. Now we can actually try to look into the server program. How are you going to write the server program? So again, like basically you have to import, right? Import java.net.star, import java.io.star. Right? All input stream, output stream kind of things are there in the package called java.io. And the socket related things are there in java.net package. Socket, server socket, all those things. So here also again, you are developing a class called public class server. This is a server program. To create a server socket, there is a class called server socket. And to create a socket for communication, you have a class called socket. So you require both. So you can see curly brace big and private socket, socket equal to null. Private server socket, server equal to null. And then for receiving data and all that, private data input stream, in equal to null. Now you develop the constructor. What is a constructor? Like whenever you want to create a server, what information do you require? We require a port number. What is a port on which server must run? Port number is essential. IP address is not required because it knows its own IP address. Server is not connecting to the client. So whenever client connects to the server, client will send its IP address and port number. So that way it will know. You don't have to give any other details. So public server of int port. Right? This is a constructor method. Public server of int port. And then again, things may be successful, may not be. So you put all of them into a try block. Try, curly brace, begin. Server equal to, it is a simple mechanism, you see. Server equal to new server socket of, you have to pass on the port number. You have to pass on the port number. So now the server is a socket that is useful for accepting connections from the clients. That's what it is. So server started, you are printing a message and then waiting for a client, another message. Now this is the actual thing. Server.accept. Server.accept. This server.accept method is a blocking one. It will wait until a request comes from the client. And what it returns? It returns a socket object. It returns a socket object. And that socket object will contain the client side IP address and port number. Right? It is a full-fledged socket actually. Client side socket and IP address and port number will be also be available here. This is a full-fledged socket that can be used for communication purpose. So client is accepted. Then once client is accepted, you want to read the data coming from the client. So for that you create a data input stream. He's trying to create that. We'll change these things like here. You can use all your Java knowledge actually. There are different ways in which we can do that. So what is available from the socket is socket.getInputStream. Socket.getInputStream will give you an input stream object. Then depending upon what kind of methods you want to invoke on that, you have to create an appropriate like a class object. So that's why he is using actually new data input stream of new buffered input stream of socket.getInputStream. Don't try to memorize all this. This is not required. But depending upon what kind of methods you want to invoke, that particular class you make use of it. Actually, here it's a flaw here. You don't require buffered input stream. Or maybe data input stream. Strictly speaking, buffered input stream is not required. He is not using any such thing. Straight away, data input stream is good enough. Anyhow, so that's all right. We will examine that, what it is. So essentially now in is equal to all this. Now string line equal to this. And then as long as the data coming from this client is not equal to over, you want to simply read that and keep printing. So while not line dot equals of over, try, what are you doing? Your in dot read UTF. There is this in means what? It is actually in is input of the socket. That means you are receiving the data from the client side actually. Whatever client is sending, all those lines what you have typed, all those lines will be coming to this. So you want to read. How do you read? In dot read UTF. He is trying to use the read UTF method. That is going to return one line. And the same line you are trying to print it. Same line you are trying to print it onto the screen, basically. System.out.println means onto the screen. That's all what it is. So your server is reading from the from the socket, which is coming from the client side, and then printing onto the screen, basically. He is not again sending back to the client. Actually, we should send it back to the client. If it is a full-fledged echo kind of entity. And then doing all these things. At the end of that, you can see closing the connection, socket.close, in.close, and then all those catch. After that, what are you doing? Now, this is a constructor method, what we have developed. Server is a constructor method. But now you require a main method for running that, public static void main. Here you are creating the server objects. Server equal to new server of port number. Naturally, you must use the same port number on the server side as well as the client side. So that client can connect to the required server. That's all what it is, right? It is such a simple mechanism actually. You don't have all those big structures, fields within the structure, and then initializing them appropriately, and then having host to network conversions, network to host conversions. All those complexities are not there here because it is the platform is fixed here. The platform is fixed, Java. So that's why Java always understands everything there without all the other nuisances that are created in the Linux. But there is a reason there because that is a lot more powerful, which can be used for developing client-server programs using different network technologies. That's why those complexities are there as a part of it. Now I will show you on our editor and all that. Let us actually take a look into. We are going to develop in a slightly different way. I will show you that. So server is there. And then client also we require client.java. So I'm actually using in a slightly different way. We will explain all that, why we are doing that, and so on. Okay. So now let us understand, right? Now let us understand. So let us go through this once again. Import java.net.star. This is a server program. Import java.io.star. That is okay. And then public class server. Now we are introducing one more streams. In fact, let us see here what we are doing. Private socket equal to none. You understand what is the purpose of this socket? For communication purpose. Private server equal to none. Purpose of this is to receive the request from the clients, connection request. And then private data input stream in equal to null. This data input stream is meant for reading data from the socket. That means whatever is sent from by the client, right? You are going to read through this in object. So you are going to read, no doubt. The server will read the data from the client. But normally what? Now after reading the data, you want to do some processing and send the reply back to the same client. So if you want to give a reply back to the client, you require an output object. And that is your data output stream. Private data output stream, out equal to none. Out equal to none. So I am introducing one more actually here. I am not printing here on this particular thing. Instead, it should be given as a reply back to the client. Right? All this you understand now. So now public server of import and then try. After that, server equal to new server socket of port. You understand. This is where you are creating the server socket, which is available in the server object. This is only to print that, yes, it started, it is waiting for and all that. And now after that, server.accept, which returns a socket object that can be used for communication purpose. Socket equal to server.accept. Once it gets out of it, it means that some client has connected to this. That's what it means. So client accepted. And after this now, here, in fact, we can simplify. Let me simplify here. New data input stream of the second one. This one I will remove it. Not required. New data input stream of socket.get input stream. Socket.get input stream is the one that returns an input stream object that can be used for creating other styles of streams. Depending upon what kind of methods that you want to read data, based on that you decide actually. This can be a variety of ways. I will show you later on. But right now it is data input stream. The second one is new data output stream of socket.get output stream. Right? So essentially that's what is being done. So, and then now string line is equal to empty. And then while not line dot equals something. So for how long this communication should happen? Until the end is listed. There actually over yes put. I'm using end. That's all. It can be anything. Right? For how long? Like until the user types end. So that is the time where it will get out of it. So while not line dot equals of end. As long as this line string is not equal to end. That's what you mean by it, right? This is how you compare the strings. You can't use double equals and all that while comparing the strings. So now inside this, what are you doing? Try line is equal to in dot read UTF. Right? You are trying to read one line of information by using the read UTF method. After reading, what are you doing? You are not doing any processing. You are replying the same thing back to the client. It is an echo server. It is normally called as echo server kind of thing. So out dot write UTF of same line. If you want this to actually perform some kind of what? Uppercase conversion kind of thing and all that, you can do all that here. So once you have read the raw data coming from the client, then it is up to us what to do with this particular line. And ultimately send, give a reply back. For the time being, you are giving the reply same thing. Like mostly it is an echo server, mostly useful for checking the network connection, whether your network is okay or not, because you are sending the data and again you are receiving it. That means it is going all the way there and again coming back, means that your network is wonderful, right? And then you are actually trying to catch and all that. Here also, if you want, it can be a highly simplified exception also you can specify, so that catch of exception, no specific things and all that. All kinds of exceptions are going to be caught by a single catch clause. Catch of exception is system.out.println. Right? And at the end of the while loop, we understand that it is completed the conversation, and now system.out.println of closing the connection. After that, what he is doing is, he is only serving a single client. The moment one client request is done, right? So the server itself is going to, the complete server is going down actually. It all depends upon what we want. If you don't want to actually make the server down, then you have to design in a slightly different way, which we will see that what to do and all that. So you are actually closing here after the conversation with one client, socket.close, in.close, and then curly brace closes. This is curly brace closes is the what? This is the try block. Try from outside. Try from outside, as you can see. There is a try block here. In fact, strictly speaking, you don't require another try inside try. So strictly, like if we want, we can in fact remove this try block, right? Okay, so I will simplify that part also. In fact, let me simplify this. You don't require this many kind of things. Like only when you want to develop a highly professional one and want to take care of specific exceptions and all that, then you require all this. Otherwise, you don't need actually. This can be removed. So now what you are doing, as you can see, I am bringing everything under one simple try block. So let me actually remove this also. Then slowly many lines will fit into that. So like this. So that you can see the entire thing now in one screen kind of thing. So you can see now try. This is what is this try is. This entire thing is a constructor, server constructor. So because there are certain things that might go wrong, so you are putting all of them into a try block. So no further inner try and all that. So whenever something fails inside anywhere for that matter, it will be taken to the end catch. And here instead of IO exception, all kinds of exceptions you want to catch, just simply say exception. Right? For your normal practice, this is good enough many a times. Right. So because our focus is more on learning the socket, this thing and all that, we are doing this. Right. So try and then catch, and then this is the closing of the constructor method. 36th line is the closing of the constructor. That's all what it is. Like it is a server here, and then the main method is like this: public static void main of string server equal new server of 5000. I think this is good enough now. Like, so I can just simply save it. Hope that you have understood. We will come back to this particular thing once again if you require. And then the client. Client is this particular thing. So import java.net.star, import java.io.star, public class client. All of you are able to see the font size is good enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you actually go through the declarations. So what are the variables required? Private socket equal to null. Private data input stream input equal to null. Private data output stream out equal to null. Private data input stream SI equal to null. Right? It is a full-fledged this thing. So that's the reason why you require all these three. One input stream is meant for reading from the standard input. And the other two are meant for actually communicating with the socket. Socket has two things. One input and the other one is output. So this out is to write onto the socket. This SI is to read from the socket input. That's what I mean. SI means socket input. Whereas this input means standard input. If you want, we can also change those things. Right? So let me actually make standard input. Right? This is a better one. So you are trying to read from the standard input. Whereas this is meant for socket output actually. So if I want, I can also specify S out, socket in, like that. So you can give appropriate names. And then client of string address int port, and then try here, socket equal to new socket of address comma port, and you are connected, a new data input stream of all that. Now the variable names are different. Now you have to use them appropriate. Standard input. Right? Standard input. And then this particular data output stream of get output stream. And this is socket output. Like this. Socket input, new data input stream of socket.get input stream. And then catch off. You don't require all this many number of catches. Right? So I can remove all of them. Probably you have another try in internal thing. So all these things, let us actually remove all of them. I think now, so here I have a doubt now, like whether we have closed appropriately or not. So we have closed, no problem. Everything is there. All right. So similarly here also, we don't have to close here the try block, right? We can continue, and these things are not required. We can keep it outside of all of them, and these lines will go one tab inside this, right? I will first remove all these things and then tell you, take care of it. So I'm simplifying so much now as a part of it. You don't require one more try here. This is required. This is how it is. Now let us go through this. Public client, all this, try block, socket equal to this, and then you are trying to connect it. And then you are getting all the objects, right? Input output objects, string line equal to null, while not line dot equals of end now. It's not over, instead I'm using the end. And here you can actually remove this particular thing. And then you say line is equal to input dot read line. Is it input now? It is not input. It is standard input. So you are actually trying to read one line at a time. Read a line and store it into line. Essentially, you need to learn the Java language. As I said, Java essentially input output. IO related methods, they must all be handy with you in order to do all of them. So standard input dot read line. And then whatever that you have read now, you want to send it over the network. So out dot. It's not out now, right? It is actually SO. SO. SO dot write UTF of line. So you have sent over the network. And after that what? You must again receive it. Whatever is sent by the server. So for that, line is equal to SI dot read UTF. You are again getting it back into that. And then you are actually printing. So essentially you are reading from the standard input, sending over the network to the server, receiving it, and whatever is received you are printing. So you will see actually one line that you enter, another line of output that is going to be printed. So two times you are going to see the same thing. System.out.println of line, and then close it. Once this entire thing is over, you have to close all the other connections. So now you have to appropriately close other connections properly. Standard input. SO dot this thing. So similarly, SI also must be closed, in fact. SI dot close. Okay, so semicolon. So you're closing all of them, socket dot close. Now catch off. You want to catch all the exceptions into a single catch method. And then exception object will come into E. And what is the reason, you will be able to find it. Right? So everything is over now. And then client equal to new client of all that. That's all what it is. We save it. So all the logic, you have put it into the constructor basically. If you want, we can also design all of them to be a part of the main method itself. Right? You don't require all of them. That entire logic can be put into the main. But this is also okay. Like you are able to think in terms of methods and all that particular thing. Right? I hope all of you are following. Right? Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Now let us actually go into take a terminal and try to actually compile and do all of that. I have stored all of them into np/java actually. There is a folder called Java, folder for storing all the Java files. Anyhow, now server and client, that's what we have developed, right? So you are going to just simply compile by using Java C. But before that, you have to install naturally. I hope that because we have covered that, how to install Java, how to write programs, all that in the last semester, you should be able to follow it, right? So install the things there and then go on. So once you install Java, like java.net is by default is there. You don't have to specifically install separately anything. So simply Java C followed by what? Server. Server.java. Like this. And this will create the server.class actually. Similarly, you have to compile client. Client.java. That also you have to do this. So anyhow, there might be some deprecated features you are using. So it is giving a warning actually. That's okay. So we are continuing. Some of the methods, outdated methods we are using. That's why it is saying. But if you use different classes, we can remove that. We will come to that a little later. So once this is done, now you have to run the program, right? There are different ways that we can run it. In fact, what we will do is we will okay, you're going to send it and then receive it. So you're not printing anything on the server side. No issue actually then. So let us now run the server. Java followed by server. Right? This is how you run it. But this may be run in the background so that we can continue the other things and all that. So you have started. Server started, waiting for a client. So if you want to see whether it is there or not, PS. So it is there. In fact, PS followed by A. If you give, you will get all the details. Like as you can see, Java server. This is a process that is currently running. Process ID is 5502. 5502. And this is what it is, in fact. Okay, so server is running. Now you have to run the client so that client connects to the server and then you will be reading data, send it, and again all that kind of stuff. So Java followed by client. Client means we require the capital C, so this is required. Okay, so client, Java followed by client. Now enter. Client accepted. See, this is the output. Client accepted is the output from server program and connected. Now it is waiting there. We have not put any prompting message that please enter this line, that kind of thing. So it is waiting there. We have to type something. So this is line 1, let us say. So this you are typing. So client will read this, send it over the server. Server will read and again send it back to the client. And whatever is returned back is going to be printed. So you are seeing that line 1, what you have entered, and this is the output from that particular thing. Second line, it is difficult to enter the C and all that. I will be using second line in this particular thing. So all of you, do you know like what OK means? Right? What is the OK meaning? OK meaning is actually, sometime back it was specified like this, all correct. Actually spelled wrongly. All correct was spelled wrongly in this particular manner. Maybe they don't have they have a keyboard like me, where they don't have the letter C on that. So they entered all correct like this, and then short like form of that is OK kind of thing. So like this, you can continuously and write it. And when you press over, also over only. But when I press end now, so that is the one when it is going to end the communication. So you can see server also has stopped. Server also has stopped because of that particular. So like this, you can actually do that. If you don't want the server to actually close all this, you have to write in a slightly different way. That's it. Just take a look into, then you will understand why it is closing. We should not close. If once again we should accept. We should accept once again. Right? After serving one client, the server must go back and accept another connection request. So where is that kind of that should be kept into a loop. Here this is kept into a loop. So this is the place where server accept business is there actually. And then server started is okay, waiting for a client. Maybe this is the place where you need to put a kind of a forever loop, right? If we want to develop this particular thing in a forever kind of thing. So first of all, let us test it, right? If you once again do like this, as you can see, connection refused, right? Java client, only one time. Server also has stopped. So that's the reason why it is actually now. Now what we will do is we will make this so that the server will be continuously running. That's what a server means, right? Server waiting for a client, server started. Okay, that's wonderful. So from here onwards, all these lines, closing the connection, socket dot close, socket dot close is okay. In dot close is what? In dot close can be done, no problem. But we have not put out dot close also somehow. All right. So all these things, let us assume like there is a reason why we are doing all this. Now you have to put into a loop, forever loop, right? How do you do that? While true. While true. Either here or somewhere else. It's okay. So this entire thing. So what is to be done while true? Server anyhow started because of this server socket. Now while true. Now waiting for a client. Use server dot accept. Socket is there. No issue. system like client accepted, and then this thing, this one, and then line is equal to all this. So in and out, you are getting from the socket. So they can be safely closed, no problem. In and out can safely be closed. Right, closing the connection, socket close, in close, out close also is a nice, good thing that we should be able to do that. What are we doing now? We are trying to make the server to continuously run, not serve a single what it is client and then close it. That's not a proper way of developing the server, right? So out dot close and then close the curly brace. So while true, so forever it is running now, and it will not come to the closing of this and so on like that. Now this is a full-fledged one. This is a full-fledged one. This is what you will have to understand now. So now after creating a server socket is created only once. You don't create every time. After creating that, then the accepting business, you try to accept a new connection from somewhere, is going to happen every time. Once you get the client request, you serve it and then close all the appropriate socket connections, come back and again try to accept another request, right? So that's what you will have to do that. So now you save it. So we have updated the server, but client is still the same client program. Now you can come back to this, then compile, right? We have to compile the server side. Server side, you have to compile. And then client side, you don't have to. But you have to run the server now. You have to run the server. So server started waiting for a client. And then we have to run the client. Like this. Client accepted, connected. Now we have to send some data. Right? So single, A and B, C I cannot, D is there, and then end, and then end. See, they are closing the connection. End, you are getting the end from the server, waiting for a client. Now server again has gone back, and the server is now waiting for a client once again. If we want another this thing, you are able to do that. Now you again line 1. Yes, you are able to do that. Post of this thing and then end. So now you can do this any number of times. So this is a right way of developing the server program. This is a right way of developing the server program. And whenever you want to terminate this, you can always maybe kill that by using kill 5726, right? Kill -9. Send the signal 9, interrupt signal to 5726. 5726. See, Java server is dead. Now, if you again want to connect to the client, right, you'll get this connection. I hope all of you have understood this particular program. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so try it out. Try it out like this. This is what is called as echo server and echo client. We can write or develop other programs. Maybe today I think it's not appropriate. Another 12 minutes or 15, 20 minutes time is there. Which is not enough to start something else. Strictly speaking, yes, I just give you one simple, maybe a kind of assignment kind of thing. So already in C language, we have written so many programs. Try to complete like some of them. For example, we have done something called square a number, meaning that the client must read a number. The number must be sent to the server. Server must perform what? Squaring of that number and give the reply back to that. right? That is one thing what you would like to do that. So in this case also, this is echo server actually. You can make a small, some processing kind of it, like convert all the letters into uppercase. These are all standard things so that whether you are actually understanding the concepts or not. Just by making small change, are you able to do that? Don't remember the program. Try to learn. Try to learn them. So uppercase is going to be very simple now. If you know string class, and do you have any method by which you can convert to upper, you try it out, right? Uppercase server, uppercase client. So in this case, client doesn't do anything actually. By keeping the same client, you can have a different uppercase server, right? Where after reading this, you convert that, and then converted string, you give a reply back, right? So these kind of small things you make an attempt to learn, and next class we will see other things. But apart from that, there is another totally new thing called UDP based thing. This is all TCP based. You are establishing connection and then do something. Similarly, you have UDP based, that is datagram based kind of thing. For that, you have other classes and all that. You can use them and so on. The class names are actually, there is something called datagram socket. The datagram packet is there, right? Like that, you have other classes which we will actually look into and continue in the next week, Tuesday, right? As usual. But try to complete, as I said, uppercase conversion, sending a number, receiving the square, that kind of programs. So all these things will help you even in the lab course also, right? So with this, we can just close our session today. So you have, for example, this is a jigs for jigs actually. There is not something, you have so many sites. It's up to you, whatever site that you are able to follow it. Try to understand, write programs, and be more confident. So I am here only to give you some direction. Whatever I give is not the final or the complete kind of thing, right? So that all of you must be aware of. So let me close the thing slowly one by one.